Hey everybody, and welcome back to Fabric Frenzy, this time 2024. Today I have a guest here with me in the studio. Maybe you want to introduce yourself, Jakob.
Hello, everyone. It's great to be back. My name's Jacob. I am a solution architect, and I'm very happy to be back next to you.
Very happy to have you. It's been quite a year of a lot of new things, and we are going to talk about a lot of those things
Mm-hmm.
during the next 30 minutes. We have an action-packed schedule. Of course, we have the most recent news. So what's new since the last time we did a Fabric Frenzy? And this has been a little bit more than a month because we did a winter holiday break. So what's new in December and in January?
There are
Then-
a few good things, don't
Yes,
you think?
I think so. And then we also have the monthly spotlight. So we have a specific feature we want to dive even more into and emphasize. And I picked a good one this time. We added something else this time. We also picked each of our own top 5 features for 2025, and we'll talk about why we believe that those are really important. Then you got a demo of a specific feature,
Yep.
a mystery feature,
Yep. We'll be making sweet music with our data.
like literally music,
Oh, yeah.
literal music with our data. And finally, that's the tip of the month, isn't it? Making
Yep.
music with our data, yeah. And we will demo the Spotlight feature as well. So today's Spotlight feature is the Lakehouse connector to Azure Data Factory.
Ooh, drum roll.
So something completely outside Fabric, something that sounds very boring on paper.
No.
I picked the most gray titled feature, but I really think that this one is very important, and I'll tell you why a little bit later.
Looking forward to it.
Yes. So for anyone tuning in who may not already know exactly what Fabric is, let's just very shortly recap that Fabric is the end-to-end platform where you can host all your data needs. So you can do everything from ingesting your data, preparing that data, and finally using the data, everything together inside Fabric and inside the one lake, the one common storage. So if you were ever looking for a platform that hosted data lakes, machine learning workflows, data warehouses, data lakehouse, and all these fancy design patterns within data, well, all of that can be done in Fabric and possibly more. Then that's Fabric for you. And in Fabric, new things are being released almost every month, except for January. So we got
And
them.
it's been so for many years, actually.
I think. No, I don't think the people at Microsoft also need to have some time off.
Oh, so disappointing.
No,
It's a very depressing month.
No,
to
that's
begin
fine.
with.
That's fine. So we have features from December, which are still new features, which are still worthy of discussion, which I think we should talk about.
Yep.
The list is long. The list is also far longer than what we are able to go through. And to be honest, not all of the items on this list is equally interesting.
That's right.
So we picked a few.
Yeah, well, I think that's my cue because first on the list we have a few items that I think are pretty cool. There they are. The unobject interaction update and the column styling and bar chart styling and the customization of labels. All really good visual properties that we've been looking for quite some time. And frankly, maybe even, and I'm talking about the data labels,
Mhm.
maybe even something we should have had a long time ago, in my humble opinion. But it's really good that we have it now, and I'm just looking forward to use it.
So I can put much more context now into my data labels without doing a lot of efforts.
Yes, it's really just as if you would have created a tooltip,
Nice.
but
Nice.
it's on display.
But going back to this one, so the bar chart, this really needed. I mean, now I can add air in between my bars. I mean, how do I even interpret what is this error supposed to
I am
mean?
sure some of the more back-end oriented developers would suggest that visualizations aren't needed at all. Give me a select statement and we're good to go. But I think it's wonderful, and I think it's visually appealing.
It is. It is, and we've already seen it used on Microsoft, some of Microsoft websites themselves, where it doesn't make it easier to interpret the chart, but it is but it feels nicer. So yeah, maybe that surely has merits in itself. But yeah,
it's not going to change your life.
It's not going to change lives. Yeah. Then we also have data alerting, something that I'm interested in. So we had the announcement and the release of Data Activator a few months ago.
Yeah.
And now we also have a tight integration with Power BI. So if we're inside Power BI and we're looking at some actual data, we can now actually get a dialog box to pop up and just enter a few information, and suddenly we have an alert that can tell us if our data is going in the wrong direction.
Or the right direction.
Or the right direction, if we are above or below some sort of threshold, or even more advanced rules. So we now have a more easier way to add these rules to Data Activator right from inside Power BI.
And at first, Data Activator seemed a bit underwhelming, but certainly it's getting there.
Yeah, surely not the functionality. Maybe more that the UI was a little bit cumbersome to set up. I mean, now that we can just go to a report and click on our data and say, I want to make alerts on this data, that should make it a lot more powerful.
And here's a curveball.
Yeah.
Why do we need Data Activator if we have metrics or KPIs?
So I think it's a curveball. So the quick answer is you can do much more advanced ruling with Data Activator. So if you are a company with refrigerators and you want to check that they're not that your food are not spoiling inside these refrigerators, with Data Activator you can set up rules for like check the last 5 points. If 3 of them are above a certain temperature, make an alert.
Yeah.
So if you had to do this in metrics, you would get 3 or 4 alerts before the system even calibrated and found out if this was an actual problem or not. And those would be false positives. With Data Activator, you can actually look at the data, even the data going backwards. You can find out where is that sweet spot where you don't get all these false positives, but you actually catch those refrigerators where the problem was there in real life. So more advanced rules is the short answer. Cool.
Sorry about the curveball.
No, that's fine. And then we have something that is completely unsexy, but important. We have automatic log checkpointing and restore points inside the data warehouse of Fabric.
It's getting hot in here.
Maybe you want to tell me what this is.
Oh, I have no idea.
Yeah, I know. So log checkpointing is, and we're getting technical here. So when we store data in a Delta Lake, in a Delta table, which everything in Fabric is stored in, that is just dumb data. It's not an actual database. So we need something on top that makes it behave and act like if it was an actual database. That is the Delta. That is the Delta layer. The Delta layer provides a bunch of metadata files saying, well, this file that was added needs to be included. This file that was added needs to be deleted from the whole thing. And as such, every time we add data, we add a new metadata as well. So if we have data that is updating very frequently, maybe every 5 minutes, then a metadata log is added every 5 minutes.
Wonderful.
So for a year, this could be hundreds of thousands of metadata. And before we can even read our data, the engine has to read all of those hundreds of thousands of metadata files to just start consuming the data, even if it was for one single data point.
So it is a tool for generating more metadata.
No, that's very inefficient. So it's a tool that takes all that history and say, well, we have like a whole year of history of what has happened to our data. And to read the data, we need to understand that full history. So it takes it all, it clashes it into one, and then makes a checkpoint. Basically, like if you're playing a game, we add a save point, a checkpoint. And that means whenever we do a new query going forward, we never have to go back before the checkpoint. We can just use that checkpoint and say, I want the data as it was there, and then any changes after that.
Okay.
And with the new feature here, this becomes completely automatic. It's just happening behind the scenes. It will make an automatic checkpoint every 5 times new data has been updated. So we don't have to do anything. We get more efficient queries and everything is just running better. A side effect is it's also adding these restore points, which also means we get better options of restoring data if a problem arises, if we have corrupt data or something like that.
Okay.
So data integrity and data security is just out of the box better with these features.
Well, sign me up.
Yes, sure thing. And then we have a OneLake integration for semantic models. So we can now go and click on our semantic models, which we should add is the new word for the Power BI dataset.
Yes. Well, actually, our friends in Italy have been saying this word for many years, and
our friends at Microsoft has been as well,
yeah,
or at least some of them. This has been widely seen as the term for the dataset for a long time. So the dataset in Power BI is the same thing as the semantic model, and now it's officially also called semantic model. The new feature here is that I can go to the semantic model and I can click a button, and by clicking this button, whenever data is imported into this model, it's also making a copy into OneLake as a Delta file.
Aha.
And this in itself, it's nice if you ever wanted to move this data somewhere else, or if you wanted to expose this data as SQL or something like that.
Yeah,
it's nice to have it.
I think I would.
But it's also nice, especially nice in conjunction with our next feature, our next news, which is the updates for the semantic links.
Oh,
yeah, because the semantic link, which is a Python package that lets us use our Power BI semantic models outside of Power BI, got a bunch of new features. So we can now do actually things like refreshing our Power BI datasets from code outside of Power BI. We can execute updates to our tabular object model via also Python code now. We can do tracing, and we can optimize our DAX queries. We can do data discovery, make REST API requests, and much more. But one of the new things is also that if our data is connected to OneLake, if we query this data with the semantic link, it's actually not going to be adding consumption to the capacity for the semantic model. It can now just read the data right outside of the OneLake copy of that data.
No.
Yeah, saving away consumption, saving away complexity, making it pretty easy to just point at our semantic models and be that one point of contact, and we can get data both in the raw format or in the model format in the model, and it's just cool.
That's cool.
Yeah. And what it means is that we can do much more with Power BI from code, which we have been needing a lot for a long time. Yes. And the final news is we got the release of the Fabric Career Hub.
Yeah. So, can I have a career, please?
Yes, you can. There is 5 steps, and then at least you have a certification, which should be a good step at least. So no, there's joke aside, there is a pretty good list of materials inside this. So there's guidance of how to approach the certifications with Fabric. There are places for group learning, for mentorship, for finding communities around Fabric. There's inspirational materials from other people who have focused a lot of their career on Fabric, and there are role guidance for specific roles. So even if you're a data engineer, data analyst, data scientist, or an analytical engineer, there should be plenty of material for you to browse and learn from inside the new Fabric Career Data Hub. So definitely worthwhile to check out.
I will.
And then we have now the final drum run. Now, then we have the one I've been looking forward to. The Lakehouse connector for Azure Data Factory.
Wow.
We got a feature for Fabric that is even not inside Fabric. How cool is that?
Wow. Yeah. Mind-boggling, actually.
So there's been a limitation in Fabric for ever since it was released. And limitation that a lot of companies out there, it actually has been a showstopper for. So if we wanted to pull data from an on-premises data source, that has been cumbersome, if not outright impossible for some data sources in Fabric. And in those cases, we've had to do workarounds, building mini solutions in Azure, or even not moving to Fabric because, I mean, if we cannot get our source data, it's impossible to do data analyst work in Fabric. So that's a challenge. We've been able to get this data inside Data Factory, but that didn't help us either because we couldn't get it from Data Factory to Fabric. And inside Fabric, we couldn't get access to the data in the on-prem sources. So we kind of had this mismatch or disconnect. We couldn't solve it. And the easy solve would be to get on-prem support inside Fabric. So just go to Fabric, connect to some on-prem source, and pull in the data. Since we don't have that, we have now the next best thing, which
need the whole
no.
Build it from scratch.
No. Which will enable us to pull data through Azure Data Factory directly to Fabric. So we don't need to store the data outside of Fabric anymore.
Oh, nice.
So even though the Data Factory is not part of Fabric, it actually just becomes a tool for ingesting that data inside Fabric. And we never have to store it in Azure. We don't have to set up some complicated Azure landing zone where we have very tight control of our data and our data security, because the data security is actually never going anywhere else than directly inside Fabric. So that's neat. And the implementation is fairly simple.
Bet you can't do it.
I've prepared, of course. So I have here an example. Created a workspace in Power BI, in Fabric, called Sandbox, which has a lakehouse. And I want to have data in this lakehouse. That was not the right lakehouse. That was the right. So let's just say that I don't have this data. Right now I have some data, but not the data that I want. I want some data from AdventureWorks. I can go now to Data Factory. And in Data Factory, I can make a pipeline. Copy data pipeline. Just right here. And this one, we just drag in a simple copy activity like this. Copy, we add it here. And we need to set up some source in sync. And for the source, I can just pick my AdventureWorks. This was already set up. This is technically this is not, but this could have been an on-premises data source. Loading the data, and I have the data ready in Data Factory. I can even preview and check that I have actual data. In this case, yes, I have a single line of data. That's nice. So now I can also add, for these data sets, I can add these new Lakehouse connectors. So I can either connect to Fabric Lakehouse files or Fabric Lakehouse tables. And here I've set up a data set that is connecting to the table. I can add here the table name. We'll call it Fabric Frenzy Demo.
I think it's called Fabrice.
Fabrice. Probably not. And we can save that and let's run it. So now the data set will run, the pipeline will run, and we can now get data from, oh no. That's an ill.
Oh no.
Oh no.
Are the demo gods tickling your belly?
Probably. We'll give the demo gods a few minutes.
Okay.
To get their things in order.
Sweet demo god. Please help us out in our
There you go.
There we go.
Data connected. So when I refresh this, we should see data. And there you go.
Ooh.
Data. Preview loading slowly. Showing the one row.
Okay, but it's still a working functional row.
It's still a working functional row. This is on purpose. So let's run it again, because I've had this question. What about then rerunning this daily or every hour? What actually happens here then with my data set? Because in Fabric we have the choice, do we pick overwrite mode or append mode? Do we just stack it on top of each other, a new copy, and get a lot of duplicates?
That would be wonderful.
It would
More
be
data.
wonderful if we did incremental load or we did delta loads. But if we do a full load, we really do not want to stack it on top of each other.
Oh.
We just want
So
to
then we delete everything.
So question is, what is actually happening here? What is it doing if we just use it out of the box? And the question is if this is a little bit quick enough here. Should have succeeded again. Can we force it to refresh? Yes, we can.
Good one. One,
And
two,
we
three.
have two identical lines, meaning
Wonderful.
it was appended. It's not so wonderful. Now we have
Well-
duplicate data.
Double happiness, right?
Not double happiness. So the thing is that this may be very much desirable if we can do delta loads, if we can do incremental loads, because we can reduce the load time a lot. But
You're saying all these fancy words.
incremental load,
What is a delta load?
delta load is the same thing as an incremental load. We target only the new updated rows. So only rows with changes, rows that had been deleted or rows that are new. And then those are the only rows that we insert into our data.
Aha, I see.
And then instead of pulling our, for example, sales history from the last 3 years, we only have to pull the new sales from yesterday. So it becomes much, much less data every time we move data. It's much more efficient. But sometimes we have a system where we do want to make the classical import full load, full copy of the whole data and just put it somewhere. And right now this is not possible in the UI. But we have a trick. The trick that I actually learned from the also very nice Microsoft MVP, Andy Cutler, who told me that I should just go inside the code, which of course, it's obvious we should just visit the raw code. And inside the raw code, we have this little tiny setting called table action option. If I simply just change this to override, I will actually make it override.
And this is, of course, well documented within Microsoft
No
documentation.
Documentation about this feature.
Oh, I see.
But we can figure it out because it's called override in Fabric. So basically, the functionality is there.
Okay.
The UI just isn't there yet.
Okay. So, but that's big news for me, especially that there are JSONs that are not documented.
It happens once in a while, once in a blue moon. You will have undocumented things from
Okay.
Microsoft. So that means now with the override mode, I can have the behavior I intend. I can now pull in data from my on-premises sources, and we can move that to Fabric. So if anyone out there is working with on-premises data, and that has been the blocker for you not moving to Fabric, well, now is the time. The solution is as simple as ever. It can be set up in a relatively short time.
Yeah.
It doesn't require a lot of elevated permissions in your Azure. It does need a service printable, but all that needs to have for permission is to be invited inside the workspace it needs to work in. So it's fairly simple setup.
That's really great.
And we have in our shelf a playbook for setting this up rather quickly. So if you have this challenge, feel free to reach out. We'll happily share the guidance of how you do this.
So if you have a table with one line
No,
it doesn't...
No, of course it works for all the tables, all the lines.
Okay.
This is especially good for large amounts of data. But if you ever have an on-premises, basically, if you ever have an on-premises system and you wanted to move into Fabric, now is your time.
Yeah.
Great. So that was the news. And you also had a sweet demo that you wanted to show us today of a cool, funny, maybe not as useful, but often overseen feature in Power BI. Is that right?
Well, you're absolutely wrong. It's very useful, and before I dive into this, I should, of course, give a huge shout out to David Eldersweld, the most inspiring man who walked the northern hemisphere. He thought of this thing, and I'm just mimicking. But really, what we want is to make sweet music with our data. That's what we try to do when we're working in Power BI. And he figured out how to do that. So basically what he did was create a table with this type of
HTML?
Yeah, HTML binary sound. And it has a frequency. And we connected that to our data. And
wait, so when you say make music with data, you're talking about actual sounds?
Yes. So before I turn this on, I should maybe give a quick warning to those of you that are wearing headsets, because you are in for a treat. And here we go.
Okay,
drum roll.
Let's hear the data. Let's hear the amount of data month by day.
Can I sing along? Beep boop boop.
Okay, so basically you're going to go tell your boss, well, for the 8th day of January,
Yeah,
we had
yeah.
amount of data.
Yeah, and then it was boop, beep, boop.
No.
So that's one.
No.
Well, frankly, we could connect this sound to a streaming data set, and it could give a beep every time we had any sort of alert. Oh, wait for it. Good one. Boom. So yeah, that was the gag. If any of you are curious on the details of how to set this up, well, I do have a few minutes. Can I show it?
Yeah.
Wonderful. So basically what we have is the HTML visual. And that is by far the most useful visual that you could ever have. If, for instance, you want to show a YouTube video as your background, maybe rolling waves on a beach, or if you'd like a bit of music with your data. This is something that the HTML visual can do for you.
Mm-hmm.
And many other things. You can even embed other Power BI embed solutions inside your desktop. You can do all sorts of wonderful things.
Nice.
I have still 1 minute, right?
Yeah.
And if we also connect the play axis, then 2 wonderful custom visuals will be
Ever so useful together.
It's synergy.
Okay. So let's, for the final minute, let me ask you the serious question here. Do you see any real life applications of playing sound with your data?
Sure. Sure. Maybe if someone is not as geeky as you and they find data a bit boring, and they maybe fall asleep, and then sometimes once in a while, we can give them a nasty squeak.
But on a serious note, I mean, there'd probably be better ways. You could have an AI narrate your data for you. You could have something.
That's too easy.
Yes, but there could be cases where someone cannot see.
Yeah.
I'm still not convinced that this is the best option, but it surely is an option for them to listen to the data rather than looking at the data.
Okay. It is a silly, goofy thing, but it just goes to show that you can actually have sound in
and if
a Power
you combine third-party tools with what we have in Power BI, it's actually surprising, astounding what we can actually do inside this tool. Yeah, no,
and we were playing the bar chart for some time.
Yep. But let's wrap it up. It's the half hour is gone. It's been an absolute pleasure. We talked about some very neat features and also a very cool one, although maybe not as useful, but very cool indeed. So good seeing you today. Thank you for tuning in and see you next one. Bye.
Cheers.
Cheers.